I've been in touch with Megan for such a long time, including during the pandemic, because I'm really keen on learning about what they are doing in the city of Roseville. And Megan, you are leading an organization that employs more than 1,000 people in a city with hundreds of thousands of people. So we are really interested in hearing your leadership story during the pandemic.
As you tell us your story, can you first take a moment? You did this so beautifully in our earlier conversation. Will you please define for us, give us your definition of post-pandemic angst?
Yes, I'd be happy to, Elisabeth, and thank you, Professor Ozcelik. The post-pandemic angst for us is, how are we coming out of the pandemic from the disruption that it caused and the extreme end of how we operated to the next normal, because we know we can't go back to what it was. But we also know a lot of benefits of what we learned from being in a remote setting. Most of our employees, we had many that were on site, firefighters, police officers, utility workers. But taking the best of what we learned from remote and then combining it with what we gained from the always being together. So some of the things that that before the pandemic that we used to take for granted were unstructured time together. We had a structure around our workday, which is a little more permeable right now, or flexible, but we didn't have such a structure around our incidental ability to talk to each other, to pass knowledge to each other, to get to know somebody, to build relationships. And when we're in a service-oriented organization like a city that requires people to provide these services and to work with each other to provide these services, we rely on trust and on knowing each other. You can't only operate from an academic, a knowledge-based viewpoint in order to provide services to human beings. You have to know the other human beings that you're working with, be able to have a comfort level to have honest conversations. And I think that what the pandemic brought out was an ability to be more real with each other than we ever have been. I think the first iteration of that was 10 years before with social media, where you got a little peek inside people's lives. But the pandemic, you're actually live in their lives, with the cat walking across the couch and, the kids saying, I need help with homework, and whatever else is going on. And maybe you didn't have makeup or got a sweatshirt on that day, like things you would never do in the office. And you just had a real sense of, a much better sense of who people were. And people, I think, being in their own surroundings, felt much more comfortable to share an element of who they were during meetings, even. To kind of like let their guard down, not have to be that a little bit of the performative aspect of our work selves in the theater of the workplace, right? If you will. And so that was really eye-opening, and I think trust building. So we gained on that side, but we did lose the unstructured time, because you had to actually make a video call to talk to somebody about stuff you would normally talk about when you got a donut at the collective workstation. So what we're trying to do post-pandemic, our angst, is how do we resolve those aspects of it? And how do we, especially with all the new employees, the great resignation, a lot of people retiring, not a new people coming on board, we didn't have the element of our normal onboarding processes, to use that term. How do we welcome people into our organization? And then how do we transfer knowledge? So that's some of the angst, I think, that we're going through. We're still in the dust, the upheaval of it, settling. There's lots of things. Our surveys with people, they really appreciate the flexibility. Now they also appreciate getting together more. So I think there's a much greater degree of appreciation for if you're remote or if you're in the office, wherever you are, you have the flexibility too.
So it's almost, we are out of the tunnel now, and we are trying to explore where we ended up with, right?
Right. And we're putting over that tunnel is leading us. You're right.
And all that sense making involves a lot of not only data processing, because I know you're a data person, you get a lot of data from the city, including surveys and everything, but also some emotional processing also. So that brings us to our leadership concepts, wisdom-oriented leadership. Megan, are you a left brain or a right brain person? How would you define yourself as a predisposition?
I think it's an interplay between the two. It's that center part. I was trying to remember the word that you used. That it's that center part, that overlap of a Venn diagram where we live, and it's really kind of alternating depending on. You have to take in the intuition. You have to look at what people are saying. You have to read between the lines. You have to know processes and policies in order to be able to navigate that as an organizational engineer. And then the artistic element I really like too. We did incorporate art into what we did as coming back together as a way to connect departments and a way to really rise up some pride in the work that we do to provide to our community. So I think it's all of those, and I think it has to be an interplay between the two sides of the brain, or else you're kind of not human. When you're not able to feel and only think but not feel.